In Jesus' name. Father, we thank you, we appreciate
Amen.
you, we give you the glory. Father, as we commence this class this afternoon, guide our thoughts, grant us wisdom and understanding in Jesus' name. At the end of this class, may your name be glorified. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
I didn't hear your amen.
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 All right. You do me well by muting yourself and on your videos, please, so that we can have a decent conversation. Please mute yourself and on your videos, please. Thank you very much. Last week, we started a topic, and I told you we are going to continue with the topic today. And that topic is, yes, who can remind me of the topic? Masoyi?
World population.
Okay, world population. Okay, world population. Now, Masoyi, what is population, or how do we define population?
The population can be defined as the number of people living in a particular place. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
By Jesus Christ.
Okay. The number of people living in a particular place and at a geographical place or area. That is how we define it. So that is how we define population. Now, we also looked at that the population of a place is not static. That population is dynamic. That is how we defined population last week. Why did we say it's dynamic? It may be low today, and tomorrow it is high. So that is how we define what population is. But as a way of reminder, we will look at the definition of the concept population again. So we said population can be seen as the total number of people living in a geographical area. The total number of people. Please, when you are defining population, do not make mistake of saying the amount, because I know over time I have seen people say it is the amount. No, it is the number of people living in a geographical area, the total number, because you cannot get the population of a place until you have counted those people. It is after you have counted that you can now determine the population of that place. Okay? So we said population is dynamic. And why is the population dynamic? It is dynamic because it's as a result of the birth rate and death rate. We said if the birth rate is high, it will result in increase in population. And if the death rate is high, it will lead to decrease in population. So those are the things that we discussed last week, that population is dynamic. Okay. We also looked at a brief history into what the whole continent of the world looks like in terms of population. We said Asia is the most populous continent in the world. Asia is the most populous continents in the world, and it is followed by Europe, Africa, North America, South America, and Australia is the least. Australia is the least continent in terms of population. So those were the things that we discussed last week. Those were the things that we discussed last week. All right, let's move on. Also, we said in Africa, Nigeria is the most populous country. And last week, we also agreed and said the population of Nigeria with an estimated figure is around 200 million people. 200 million people. That is the population of Nigeria. Now, having said that, we also discussed some basic concepts of population. Balami, mention one concept that we discussed last week. David.
Sir, birth rate.
Sir?
Birth rate.
Birth rate. What is birth rate?
It is.
Yes,
it is
Balami.
like. The increase
Balami,
of population
did you
is
say
like.
birth rate?
Yes.
Balami.
Sir.
I said, what is birth rate?
It is great at which people are giving birth in a certain geographical location.
Okay, that's very good. Solomon. Solomon.
Sir?
Yes. Mention another concept that we discussed last week.
Sir, death rate.
Death rate. Okay, what is death rate?
Yes. Sir, is the rate of people dying in a particular area.
Okay, the rate at which deaths are recorded in a geographical area. Okay, that's very good. Masoyi.
Yes, sir.
Another concept.
Sir, overpopulation.
Very good. Overpopulation. And what is overpopulation?
It is a situation when the population of a country is more than the available resources of that country.
Okay, that's very good. That's very good. Okay. Ene. Ene, are you there?
Have an entanglement.
Blessing, are you there? Blessing. Okay, we also looked at population density. Can somebody in the class tell me what population density is?
Sir.
What is population density? Grace.
Sir, the number of people per unit area.
Hello. Grace, what is population density?
So I was not in the last class.
You were not in the last class. Edward, yes. What is population density?
Alex.
Edward, population density. You are searching.
Sir, population density.
Yes.
The population density is defined as the number of persons per kilometer of land.
It's okay. It's okay. The total number of persons per square kilometer. on a land is known as the population density. Alex, what is the formula for calculating population density, Alex?
Sir,
Yes.
population density equals to total population over
Yes.
total area kilometer square.
Total population.
Total population over total area kilometer square.
Over total land area. Over total.
Wow.
The formula is total population over the total land area. Now, this calculation is what gives you your population density. That is what gives you your population density. Okay. Now let's continue. Now let's look at this other topic for today, determinants of world population size. We want to see what and what determines the population size of any country. What are the determinants of the population size of any country? Okay, number one determinant is the birth rate. The birth rate. I will not talk too much on that because we talked about it last week. And we said, when we say birth rate, we are talking about the rate at which children are being given birth to in a country. What is the rate? Now, when you are able to determine the rate at which children are being given birth to, it is a pointer to what the population of any country would look like. Generally, high birth rate will lead to population increase or overpopulation, while the low birth rate will lead to low population. Are you getting what I'm saying now? So also, the birth rate of any country, is mostly determined by some factors. Some factors, please mute yourself. I only want to see your video. Mute yourself. Daniel Emenike, mute yourself. All right. So there are factors I said responsible for birth rate. One of them is religious belief. Religious belief, early marriage, improved medical care, government aids, and desire for a large family. All these factors that I've mentioned now, all these factors I have just mentioned are responsible for the world population size. Religious belief. There are religions that are of the opinion that you need to give birth. Some people also get married early. All these are responsible. There are people that get married at early age. And when they get married, they see it as an avenue to do what? To give birth to so many children. Also, improved medical care. That is, when our medical system is well improved, it will result in people giving birth to so many children. Also, government grants. So number one determinant of population size is the birth rate. The birth rate, very, very important. Also, death rates, that is mortality, also results in determining what the population of a place or a country would look like. Death rate refers to the rate at which people, both adults and children, die in a country. Generally speaking, high death rate leads to population decrease or low population, while low death rate leads to increase in population. Edward, mute yourself. All right, so like I said, high death rate leads to population decrease or low population, while low death rate leads to increase in population. Now, the death rate of any country also affected by the following factors. There are factors that are responsible for the death rate of any country. Number one is natural disaster. We have natural disasters like earthquake, volcanoes. All these are natural disasters. You also have man-made disasters. Man-made disasters like flooding. These are man-made disasters. All these can lead to death rates. Poverty, poor medical services, then ratio of male to female.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, what leads to all these things? I did not get you.
I said these factors I have mentioned here leads to death rate, the rate of death in a country. Are you cleared?
Yes, sir.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
are you cleared?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I said these factors I have mentioned is what leads to the rates of death, whether on the increase or on the low side. Are you getting what I'm saying now? Hello, are you with me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right, so let's continue, please. So all these are what leads to the death of any country, whether on the low side or on the high side. Now, migration is also a major determinant of population. Migration. And what is migration? Migration is the movement of people from one geographical area to another, either temporarily or permanently. Now, what this point tries to explain is that people move from one area to another. That is a known fact. And that movement is known as migration. Now, you move to a place temporarily or permanently. For example, there are people that reside in Kaduna but move to Abuja either for job or one thing or the other. That is a temporary migration because the family of the person is still here. But a permanent migration is that kind of migration whereby you are staying in that place permanently. Everything that concerns you is in where you have migrated to. That is a permanent migration. So migration to a large extent determines the population of a particular region or country. Migration can be immigration or emigration. Immigration is talking about people that are coming into the country. Emigration is people that are moving outside of the country. All these are movements of people. Migration can also be in form of rural-urban migration urban-rural migration, rural-rural migration, urban migration, and also international migration. Now, I don't need to overflog all these forms of migration because I know you understand them. Rural-urban migration is moving from one rural area to an urban area. Urban to rural is moving from urban to a rural place, while urban is moving from one urban area to another urban area. While the international migration is you are moving outside of your country. That is international migration. The factors responsible for migration includes insecurity, change in status, different economic opportunities, so on and so forth. All these are responsible for why people move from one place to another. Any question?
No, sir.
No,
Any question, please?
no, sir.
Okay, having said that, let's move from determinants of population to population structure. We want to know what is population structure. Population structure is defined as the age and sex composition of a population. The age and also the sex composition of any population. Talking about a population structure, you want to look at what is the age of that population. Do you have more of the younger people? Do you have more of the older people? Or do you have more male or you have more female? That is why we are talking about the age and the sex composition of a population. The structure of population can be represented by a bar graph called the population pyramid. That's what we call the population pyramid. It is what explains how the structure of a population is in terms of the age and in terms of the sex composition. So that is population structure. So in summary, what structure is trying to tell you is what is the structure of that population, that is in terms of age and the sex. Now there are factors responsible for population distribution of the world. Certain factors are responsible for why we have population distribution. Okay, last week, I talked about patterns of population distribution. Ivy, mention one pattern. Ibn Abo?
Sir,
One pattern of population distribution we discussed last week.
very dense populated areas.
Yes, very dense populated area. Very good. Solomon, another pattern.
Very high population.
You said?
Very high population.
No, somebody is densely populated and somebody has said it. There is another pattern. Yes, we discussed it last week. Moderately populated areas. Very good. Yes, another pattern.
Sparsely populated area. Very
okay, then we have sparsely populated areas. Okay, okay. Thank you. Now, we want to know the factors responsible for this difference in population distribution. What are the factors responsible? And based on the slide you can see, we said there are two major factors that is responsible for population distribution. We have the physical and the human factors. The physical and the human factors. So we'll be looking at that this afternoon. Now, physical factors. Under the physical factors, number one is climate. Climate, to a large extent, determines the kind of population you find in a place, at least favorable one to some extent. Areas with favorable climates, like Europe, United States of America, China, etc., attracts population, while unfavorable or harsh climates like the desert areas or the polar regions do not attract population. Of course, this point is very, very clear. Under this point, climate to a large extent determines how people are attracted to that place. Favorable climate like those of the Europe, you see people moving towards those areas, while the desert areas have very low population. Another physical factor is availability of water. Availability of water. Areas where water is available both for human and agricultural purpose, like the USA, India, Java, etc., they attract very high population. Of course, we said when we were talking about settlement, one of the factors to consider before you settle in a place is availability of water, because water sustains life. So if water is available in a place, the population naturally will be very, very high. The population of that area will be naturally high. All right, let's move on. Now, other physical factors is relief. Relief. Talking about the topography of a place. The topography of a place. Now, lowland and river valleys like the Nile, the Delta in India, and the low plateau attracts population. Lowland areas, areas that have very flat plain, they attract people. It is natural. That is why we made those examples like the Nile, the Delta in India, and also plateaus that are very low. They attract population. But mountainous areas or rocky areas do not attract very high population. So relief is another physical factor that is responsible for the population of any place. That is responsible for the population of any place. Number 4 physical factor is soil. Soil. Better soil tends to attract population. For example, the Ganges of India, China, Java. While infertile soils like those in deserts. Balami, do you have a question?
No.
Balami,
No,
David.
sir.
David, do you have a question?
No, sir, it was a mistake.
It's all right. So
No,
soil.
sir.
Okay. So fertile soil is one physical factor that attracts population to a place, while places like the Sahara Desert or other polar regions of the world do not attract very high population. Why? Because the soil is not fertile for anyone to farm on. Is that clear? So all these are the physical factors that determines the population of any region. Okay, physical factor, another physical factor is presence of mineral resources. Mineral resources to a large extent also attract the population of any place or any region. Of course, places like that have minerals like coal, iron, petroleum, they attract population because the people around there would want to benefit from these resources that are available in those areas. So all these are the physical aspects of the population distribution of any place. Any question before we move on? Any question?
No, sir.
Yes? Okay. Let's move to the human factors of population distribution. What we just discussed is the physical factor. Now let's look at the human factors that determines the population distribution of any country. What is the human aspect that determines the population of any place? Number one is agriculture. Areas where agriculture is widely practiced, like India, China, and Java, usually attracts population. Where population is practiced naturally attracts population. Also, religious belief. Religious belief. The Islamic religion believes in polygamy and early marriages, and this promotes high population concentration in areas where it is practiced. Of course, we have said it before that religious beliefs determines how population is increased. That is why a state like Kano State would have a population of over 12 million people. Why? Because they believe in early marriages, and because they believe in early marriages, they also practice polygamy. You see a man having up to 4 wives, and each wife would have nothing less than 7 to 8 children for each wife. So for those 4 wives, for one man, he is having like 28 to 30 children for one man. All these are areas where the population is increasing. So religious belief is one factor that contributes to human population distribution. Also, industry is another aspect of human factor. Areas like the Pittsburgh in US, the Ruhr in Germany, they have high concentration of industries. And because they have high concentration of industries, people go there for different job opportunities. People move to those industrialized areas for job opportunities. Now, because people move towards those areas, the population keeps rising. The population keeps rising. So that is another factor. Immigration is another human factor, immigration. Immigration, just like I told you, is when people move into another country or move, for example, people moving into Nigeria are immigrants. People moving into Nigeria are immigrants. So if a Nigerian will go into another country, that Nigerian is also an immigrant. So the movement of people from other parts of the world into an area, that is when people migrate into those countries, also increases the population of those countries. For example, the US, United Kingdom, Europe, generally, people move from different countries into these continents. And because they move into this continent, the population of those countries in that continent begins or would naturally grow. So the population of those places will rapidly grow. Why? Due to the availability of employment opportunities in those areas. Transportation network. Transportation network is another reason why we have different population distribution for different places. The presence of good transportation network in an area promotes mobility. It promotes mobility and it facilitates migration to increase population. When there is a very good transportation network in an area, migration is facilitated. Migration is what? Is facilitated. And when migration is facilitated, population increases. So good transportation network gives rise to population increase. When there is a very, very good transportation network, that is, you can move from one area to another. You can move from one region to another. When you can move from one region to another, it gives rise to population. Number 6, human factor responsible for population distribution is improved social facilities. Improved social facilities. The availability of modern and improved medical and social facilities like pipe-borne water, electricity, good housing, good network of roads, and healthcare delivery attracts high population concentration. Of course, naturally, when a place have improved social facilities like water, electricity, good road, good housing, good health care, those places grows naturally with population. It grows naturally with population. So all these are the human factors that gives rise to the distribution of population in any area. Any question?
No, sir.
Any question?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay.
I would slide 14.
You said? Can we continue?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if you don't have question, I think I have questions for you.
Okay, sir.
What is population structure? What is population structure? Yes, who is talking there? Masoyi?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
It's defined as the age and sex composition of a population
Okay. The age
and can be a tax vat
and can be what?
presented in a population pyramid.
Okay. So the age and sex composition of any population is known as the population structure. The age and sex composition of any population is known as the population structure. It's known as the population structure. Okay. Now, Jesse, mention one physical factor of population distribution. Jesse. Jesse?
Sir?
Yes, one physical factor of population distribution. Jesse, I'm listening. Yes? Jesse, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you, sir.
I said one physical factor. Precious. Precious, one physical factor.
Sir, climate.
Climate is one. Okay. Grace, another physical factor. Grace, another physical factor. Yes?
Temperature.
Eh?
Gio, bring your phone.
Grace,
Sir?
I said one physical factor.
Gio, bring your phone.
Joba. Joba, one physical factor. Yes? Joba. Edward.
The climate.
Edward. One physical factor.
Wait, can you use this kitchen wash? And throw this earbud.
Yes, Edward, one physical factor of population.
Can you listen? Come. Wash my face for me.
Sir, climate.
Okay, climate.
Relief.
All right.
And soil.
And what? And soil.
Availability of water.
Okay. Now, what about human factor? Human factor now. Human factor of population distribution. Yes. Busayo. Busayo. Busayo, one human factor.
Sir?
One human factor of population distribution, yes? Huh? Busayo, I can't hear you. Busayo.
Agriculture.
You said?
Agriculture.
Okay. Agriculture. All right. Okay, having said that, is there any other question?
No, sir.
Is there any other question?
No, sir.
All right. In the absence of no question, I think we have come to the end of this class. So, I'll see you next week.
Sir, please send the note.
The note, okay.
Bye-bye, sir.
We'll send it.
There
Masoyi, I didn't hear you.
is coronavirus part of death rate. Is it a factor of death rate?
If the person dies, it's death rate now.
Sir, bye-bye.
Sir, what of if we don't die?
It's not part of the death rate.
Sir, what of if
Okay. Thank you very much. And have a nice